Welcome to the very first episode of the House of Expansion podcast. I am your host, Louise Fernando, business mindset and energetics coach. I am bringing you raw, unedited, polished, and passionate podcasts very regularly, and I'm going to be speaking to many leaders in the industry, many people that are aspirational, inspirational, and activational that will help you as you grow and scale your business. This podcast is primarily for business owners that are looking to grow and scale in the most aligned, ethical, and with integrity way. And this brings me into exactly why I have this episode is very special in many ways. One, because it's the very first episode, but secondly, because I am joined by a very special person who means the absolute world to me. We are going to be joined by Kirsty Waite, who is the founder and owner of the Ethical Coaching Company. And first, before I hand us over to Kirsty, I'm going to explain a little bit about how we met and why we are so aligned in business together, and how our friendship has just grown beyond what I ever expected to when we met. Kirsty and I met in a mastermind several years ago. And I remember being instantly drawn to Kirsty's natural flair, her strategical head, and the way that she breaks everything down in the most simplistic terms, but also is so passionate about the people that she works with, passionate about clients, and passionate about the ethics that are in the coaching industry. And this was something that Kirsty and I hit off immediately around. We both share many values together. We've shared many experiences together. And I am super excited to bring Kirsty on today to be able to speak about all of the things that light us up in business and how we have got to where we are now. So let me introduce you, Kirsty. Let's introduce you and say a little bit about who you are, what you do, and yeah, what lights you up and what energy do you bring to the business world?
Oh, Louise, hello. Oh, thank you for such a lovely introduction. That was lush. So yeah, it's really first of all, thank you so much for asking me on to be on the first episode. It's really nice to have you in the driving seat. It's lovely to be here and to share this part of the journey with you. It's lovely. Thank you. For those listening that haven't met me or come across me, I'm Kirsty, and as Louise said, I have a business called the Ethical Coaching Company, and we are a business coach and organizational development business. So as it says in the title, we're really passionate about challenging the mediocrity in an industry that's unregulated. Ethics are at the core of everything we do. Creating really impactful, powerful coaching experiences for our clients is a top of the list. And we are really passionate about making powerful, impactful coaching accessible to those that need it. Our clients are particularly SMEs who haven't got the funds to pay in-house people to be coaches or to have a full team of people like larger corporates do. We want organizations to be able to pick and choose what they need when they need it to create real impact in their business. So that's my organization, that's my business. But as Louise said, we met many years ago in a mastermind and bonded really quickly over our desire to do good in the world with our business, to actually look after and serve our clients. And we didn't see clients as a number. We very much wanted to be involved and we were really passionate about having an impact. So yeah, we were really connected on that initial value, I think.
Thank you, Kirsty. So there are many different experiences that people have had in the coaching industry. And as you know, things kind of boomed around the 2020 mark, where things rapidly increased in the online space. There were many people came online. At this point, I just want to explain to our listeners, like, what was your drive behind the Ethical Coaching Company? What was it that almost, I guess, pushed the needle and executed your reasons for building this incredible company?
Mhm. So I think it might be worth saying before I had the ethical coaching company, I had my own business coaching practice. So I was in corporate for many, many years. Always knew it wasn't where I naturally fit, where my energy was, but did really well in it really quickly and kind of found myself looking external for something else. I found coaching, studied it while I was still in my corporate role, knew it was my exit strategy. So, and my corporate roles were always corporate governance, compliance, internal controls, internal audit, always roles that looked at controls, regulation, legislation. So when I come out into the coaching industry in my own business coaching practice back in 2020, like you say, there was a huge boom. I think it increased crazy. I think it was around 65 or 70%, if not higher. The industry literally increased in that time. Obviously, it was COVID. People were at home, people were on furlough, people were investing in doing things at home. We saw an increase in online coaching that almost seemed to be this well, and it was for a little while, like a quick win. Calling yourself a business coach in 2020 seemed to be the way to make a ton of money very quickly. I didn't ride that wave for multiple reasons. I think when I came out of corporate and I started my own practice, I almost ran back into corporate because I saw the unethical practices, I saw how immoral people were, people calling themselves coaches, and I'm sitting thinking, that's not me though. Am I a coach if that's how you have to behave as a coach? So because my background was so compliance and corporate governance led, I kind of went, oh my God, I can't see myself thriving in this industry. Like, this is not for me. And then I kind of stopped and I started working with small businesses. I started doing it my own way and kind of thought, I'm just going to do it in a way that feels really, really good to me. Whilst growth might not be as quick, I know that it feels really good. It's really ethical. My clients were getting really impactful results. Genuinely, every single client I've ever worked with, and thinking back in those days, are probably still in my remit of either friendship. We still chat about their businesses. Like, I knew I wanted to be around and really have an impact on people's businesses and people's lives. And I just saw what was happening in the coaching industry, and I wanted to be as far away from that as I could. People who had no experience, no training, no skills as being a coach was just calling themselves a coach, was marketing themselves as a coach. And we saw a boom in like the MLM, the pyramid schemes approach, the bait and click. Like, we literally saw these really immoral practices happening on a daily basis. And I was seeing, and at that point in time, in 2020, it was such a popular thing to be a business coach. If you dared to speak out about anyone that had a big name in the industry, you were being literally cancelled. You were being hit with legal letters. Like, it was almost like behind the scenes, nobody dared say what was going on. Obviously, when we met, we built a very close relationship really quickly. And we were really open about what we were witnessing. And we were seeing people go from literally nothing to earning like multi-millions of pounds. But actually, we realized very quickly that people were being completely missold, ripped off, damaging their reputation, damaging themselves. It's almost a trauma that people go through. They invest in tens of thousands of pounds with the promise of six-figure months, seven-figure businesses, like all this noise. And I think people were really questioning what they wanted to do in the world, in their life, like through COVID, who wasn't, we sat at home, we had lots of time to think. So 2020 and 2021 saw the boom of this coaching industry, and it absolutely trashed the reputation of what a proper coach is, in my opinion. Before this, coaching was more regional. You would have to drive to someone's house, someone's office. It was harder to find a business coach. You had to be referred or recommended. And it was a bit more of a traditional offer. And on the plus side of that, it opened the world up for business coaches, which is incredible because we wouldn't be able to do what we do if that hadn't have happened. But operating in that world for a couple of years really kind of had me going, something needs to change. And after I'd had my business a few years, I'd kind of like settled into, I'd replaced my corporate salary. It was all good. But I was kind of like, what else, what else, what else? So that's where the ethical coaching company was born, of all I wanted to do. And I'm not sitting here saying we're going to try and regulate the industry because that's just absolutely bonkers. Like it needs to be done formally via some kind of university structure, government structure, or whatever. Like that needs to be, whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. But all we want to do is create a real safe space for SMEs to come and get access to really good quality coaching. Coaching used to be seen as an elite service. Only the people with loads of money would even go and get access to a coach. But then also the reputation, people didn't dare go for coaching because they didn't know if they were going to get ripped off. Then it all became a bit of a hype. Then it was like, well, business coaching is almost laughable. Like I used to hate telling people I was a business coach. And when I was leaving my successful corporate career to come and be a business coach, people were like, oh my God, what is she doing? So when we decided to create the ethical coaching company, we knew it had to be built on real solid ethical foundations. And what we have realized is businesses that lead with ethics and values so strongly is going to grow slower because you need to find your people that really value this. So that's how the ethical coaching company was born.
Thank you. And I think there's lots of gold in there in terms of like the way that the industry has fluctuated in terms of its waves. It it at times has felt that it's up and it's down, it's up and it's down, and there's crashes and waves. And I think there is this in any industry. I think, in any industry there are different ethics, there are values, there are different ways of doing things. And I think for the coaching industry, there certainly does seem to be more of a rise of the the expectation that someone has to be certified now and have qualifications, and being able to take someone to the depth of what they can take someone, because otherwise people are then led into a space of unsafeness or
Yeah.
unsecureness,
Mhm.
instability, and that itself can cause a mental health dip as well.
Mhm.
As coaches, I mean, my personal opinion is that as coaches, mental health should always be at the forefront of our clients, ourselves, our well-being, looking after our well-being, looking after our clients' well-being, being able to being able to hold a safe space for them. And that
Mhm.
comes down to really, really good leadership. It comes down to self-mastery, being able to master your own emotions, being able to lead the way. Now, one of the things that I really admire about the ethical coaching company is it is truly about leadership. Can you talk to us more about what makes a good leader?
Sorry, say that again, Louise.
One of the things that I completely love about the ethical coaching company is your ethos around leadership and what really makes a good leader.
Yeah.
So let's just chat about that. What does make a
Yeah.
good leader, and who is a leader?
That's a really great question. And whilst we are a business coaching organization, our mission is to transform the future of work. We believe ethical, powerful coaching has the ability to do that. And there's a statistic that I quote all the time, and it's from the Gallup report about the number of, it's something like 75% of people working in organisations in the UK are disengaged. And the biggest reported reason why that is, so they're disengaged, they're not happy, they're not committed to their role, is their direct line manager. Imagine if we could create incredible managers and leaders to create a happier working world. Imagine a team of engaged people that are going home happy, they feel fairly rewarded, they're more committed in the workplace. And why we want to help leaders, because we truly believe that managers and leaders have that's for me where you're going to have the impact of transforming the world of work. Because if we can create better managers and better leaders, we're going to have a much happier world, right? Like, and if we can get people to think more collaborative around management and leading, we're going to get more engaged and happier employees. So, whilst we are led and underpinned by ethical business coaching, the leadership piece is really, really important for us. So we also do Leadership Academy, first line management, like we support the leadership team with their strategy, communication, like all this is built up on a basis of really strong ethics and a coaching approach. So when for me, for my personal opinion around what makes a great leader or who is a leader, anybody can be a leader, right? It doesn't matter. And I always talk about the shadow that you cast, and whether you're going to the local butchers, whether you're speaking to your child's head teacher, whether you're speaking like at the school gates, you cast a shadow, right? And there'll be people out there that haven't got direct reports, which people think is the typical leader, someone at the forefront of an organization. People can be leaders in every aspect, whether you're a wife, a mum, like whatever it is. It's how do you want people to feel? Like, how are you, from a self-awareness perspective, how are you impacting the environment that and the people that you're in? And we're really passionate about collaborative leadership and collaborative management. So anyone can be a leader. And I think things that make people great managers or leaders is understanding self. Number one, understanding themselves. Now, coming from a corporate background, if I started talking in a meeting in the corporate world about understanding self and emotional intelligence, I would literally be laughed out the room. And I want to change that. I want people to start to recognize the importance of understanding yourself. Because if you can understand yourself, you can understand others and you can adapt to meet your team where they are and give them what they need. Because understanding that we all individuals, understanding what motivates you doesn't motivate me. And that doesn't mean to say we can't operate on a team and be really successful and high performing. It's been led with kindness, empathy, and collaboration with your team. Now, commercials matter, sales matter, but profit matters. And people assume, or there's almost that belief that we can't be ethical and nice to our team and really high performing. When actually, many, many studies have shown time and time again that actually coached people and coached teams outperform uncoached teams. People that are engaged increase productivity by, I think it's something crazy like 60%. Like there's all these studies that show that actually engaged employees, engaged means happy, committed, loyal, motivated in their job, outperform on productivity tenfold, right? So why are we not investing in our teams? Why are we not investing in our people? And I think there is a change. I think the landscape of the working world is changing, and I think that's come on the back of one, COVID, but also the generation that's coming through. They don't want a job for life, and they're not afraid to disrupt. And we've got people starting businesses out of university making millions, right? Like they are going against the grain. They're not going off and sitting in an office and being grateful for the job they've got. They want more out of life, and I think that's really alongside the COVID transition. I feel like there's a big movement in the work and world happening right now. There's a change in the leadership style. And I genuinely believe, I think by 2030, I think 70% of our workforce is going to be made up of Gen Z and millennials, right? So we're getting rid of the boomers will have gone and retired, that traditional leader, it'll become less and less. And unless organizations get on board with this, they are going to lose their best people. They're not going to attract the best talent. They're not going to keep them. And ultimately, that's going to directly hit their bottom line. And I think sometimes people think coaching and all this fluffy stuff of leadership training and all this is all a bit pink and fluffy and nice to have, and it becomes a tick box. Well, actually, if we don't start taking it seriously, it is going to absolutely hit your bottom line in the years to come.
Absolutely. And I think, a couple of key points that I took from there, which areas that I absolutely adore, is the self-awareness piece, is really that self-awareness piece and the emotional intelligence piece, because it is missed from these areas. And what we can see is business owners reaching a peak where strategy is no longer working, strategy is no longer, and processes and systems are no longer able to function and keep moving a business, because the emotional intelligence and the self-awareness behind these processes aren't no longer working, because it does require self-leadership. And self-leadership for me is about, well, how do you master your emotions? How do you master yourself when you're in a difficult, challenging conversation? How do you even bring these conversations to the table without either backing away or trying to find an exit because your nervous system is completely derailed by the thought of having these difficult conversations? But these difficult conversations accelerate growth. These difficult conversations are the conversations that allow other people to meet each other on a wavelength and make decisions based on how can we change this instead of a blame culture. And, so for me, it's not about, well, how can you blame someone else, but how can you take radical responsibility? How can you come to the table and say, okay, this is the issue, this is the problem, let's look at the solution, what can we do together? Can you tell me more about how you've seen some of these issues come up in organizations, in businesses where there is a lack of emotional intelligence, there's a lack of that self-awareness, and how that really impacts on someone's business?
First of all, I think people don't know that they lack self-awareness, right? And it's people, I know I keep saying like stats and studies, but there was this study done at Harvard Business School around for business owners, and it was something like 80% of the people that took it thought they were emotionally intelligent. They actually did tests on them, and it came out like 13% actually demonstrated self-awareness, like real, true self-awareness. And that goes to show that there is such a lack of understanding or lack of reflection on self. And what you said there is so important, radical responsibility. What we see often, and this is where either through the ethical coaching company or even when I was in organizations or in my business coaching practice, the blame. People don't want to take radical responsibility for their own actions in something that's gone wrong. There is always a blame, there's always a scapegoat. People aren't prepared. And I think I always say around like that difficult conversations piece, right? There is no difficult conversation. It might be uncomfortable, it might be a little bit awkward, but actually, there's two humans sat around a table. If it's not working for one, it's not working for the other. And if someone's behaving in a certain way that's unacceptable, it's unacceptable for the whole team, for the whole business. Have an open communication and really, really honest, transparent conversations. It might be that the individual in front of you is not right for your organization, and that is okay. It's almost like if someone dares leave, if someone dares say, actually, this isn't right for me, it's like the villain, right? We're like, how can we get rid of them? You want people to leave your organization and shout about how great you are as an organization, how well you treat them, just because the ending means someone's left the organization doesn't mean it has to be bad, or it has to be, yes, I understand you're always going to get a small percentage of people that want to disrupt or want to bring trouble, but that a majority of people I've found are acting out a place of self-absorption and not understanding or missed expectations in a role they shouldn't be in. Like this is all the stuff. So sometimes people come to me as a leader or a manager and go, in a coaching session, I want you to help me manage this person out of the business. Right. My first response is not, okay, great, let's start talking about that. Let's take me 10 steps back. Let me understand, how did we get here? What have you done already? What responsibility are you taking as a leader? How can we make this as a pain-free process for everybody involved? Like, I want to know the background. I wouldn't just dive straight in. But a lot of the time, I feel that in organizations and leadership, we lack radical responsibility of our own actions, and we always look for a blame and then a scapegoat.
And often that comes down to being uncomfortable and what I call staying in the room when the conversation becomes almost like squirmy, is the word I want to use, where we have two people or a group of people that need to have this challenging conversation, or the conversation that they know will bring them growth, but staying in the room can be quite difficult. And often that could be based on their emotional intelligence. It could be based on past subconscious cues that are coming up regarding their own childhood, how they can handle conflict, how they can accept constructive feedback, because all of these things I believe, take a place in communication and how we communicate effectively.
Absolutely. And I think also that how are you leading by example as a manager or a leader? Like, how are you saying, look, I understand this is going to be a really difficult conversation for both sides. Let's just be really open and get that out into the room. But also, and I even do this with my kids as like, right, something's fallen down here. What have I done that has ended up in this? Like, how can I take responsibility for this situation? Where's my element of this? Right, okay. And if we lead with that as managers and leaders, it's almost then makes it easy for the person in front of you because what we don't want to get into a situation where it's combative, our ego takes over, you're wrong, I'm right. And until I force you to believe in I'm right, we're going to sit around this table. It's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be awkward, it's going to be combative. What if we just got rid of all that and went, right, we two adults, let's talk about this situation. How are you feeling about it? This is the consequence of what happened. How are we going to move forward together? I'm taking responsibility for this. I should have done that better. You go, right? And how do we move forward together collaboratively?
And
And I understand saying that out loud is easier said than done, but that comes back to one, the leader and manager stepping into growth and discomfort and vulnerability and not being shying away from that. Because I think traditionally the manager should know everything. They should be comfortable doing everything. Like, and that's a huge amount of pressure, right? Like the minute I think you take that pressure off and go, I'm going to do the best for everyone involved in this situation and believing in yourself that your values are strong enough that you're going to do the best you can with the information that you've got for everybody included, not yourself, not the business, not just the employee, for everybody involved. We're going to take a balance. How do we move forward and help everybody?
I love how you brought that to the table about not only just in business and in the like a corporate role, but also in home life. Like
Hmm.
how as a leader are you leading yourself as
Hmm.
a mom, a dad, a wife, a husband, a partner, a friend, or like how as a parent, like how are
Mm,
you leading yourself from those moments? Because
yeah.
a lot of people think that business and life are they can separate them, but I
Mm,
disagree with that because I see so many strands and threads come through business and in life that are really
mm,
deeply connected, and these strands can rub against one another. So where
mhm,
someone may be a leader at home, they may be lacking in some kind of leadership in their role or vice versa, when these
mhm,
things are really transferable, when they
mhm,
can believe and they can have the opportunity to upskill themselves and be able to communicate effectively and things like that.
mhm,
So, it is about how are we leading ourselves all the time? How are we showing up to conversations that are difficult?
mm,
How are we when we're not shying away from the challenge and unprecedented times that are in the world at the moment, how and who are we showing up as? I always say
mm,
that it's not just about the celebrations and when everything is going great, but it's also how are you showing up as a leader when things are not so great.
And that's when you see how much of a leader you actually are. And I think that is when it's tested and that's when it's challenged. And it's about, and this is you harnessing your own emotions and not necessarily, I don't mean, when I say harnessing and controlling your emotions, I don't mean not being emotional and being more positive and not, it's actually how you process through the difficult times, how you have the difficult conversations, how you sit in the learning. Like genuinely, like that's what makes you as a leader, being able to guide the ship when things are rocky and the seas are rough. That's where you really learn how to be a leader. And we, as you know, Louise, those listening, we have a business coaching accreditation. And I always say to people coming through, so this is for people who want to take more of a coaching approach in their management or leadership style, or be a business coach in with their business. I always say, like, once you become a coach and this self-awareness, it's a gift because this won't just stay in your business life. You will become a better person all around. You'll listen better. You'll start being curious. You'll start seeing things from different perspectives. And like you say, whilst there is the work-life balance conversation, which is another conversation completely, but you can't separate you as a person. Like, and I remember, and that's when you come disconnected and disengaged, because I remember going into corporate, lovely big glass office. I used to walk in them doors and put a mask on. I was a different person. I didn't talk about my home life. I most definitely didn't talk about having a child. Like, literally, I've said to you before, there's people in my work that didn't even know I had a child because I was so corporate, I was so professional, I was so work orientated. Actually, now in my business, I am the same person talking to you on a podcast, talking to my coaching client, talking to my husband, talking to my child. Like I operate in the same values. I have no mask on. I am very open. I'm very authentic. And that's who I was in my personal life, but I just never was in my business life. Whereas now I am just purely that person. And the business now, whilst I have other people in that business, is built on my core values, which I've just kind of gone, does anyone else agree with this? Does anyone else want to be part of this party? And thankfully, a lot of people went, yes, me. So I get to kind of just be that authentic self. And like once you become self-aware, it is such a gift. You cannot unsee. So you can't help but then downside is, and I always talk about unsolicited coaching at home, like you then start to see other people's lack of self-awareness and other people's limitations and other people's unconscious beliefs that they are living by because you've opened your perspective so much. Nothing's right or wrong, nothing's true or false. It's kind of curiosity of what lands for me, and that might be a very different world to what works for you or what works for my husband or my parents or someone I'm working with. And it's accepting people as they are in that their own messiness and not being judgmental, but almost going like this is me and I'm okay with that.
I think the biggest thread for me there was around the masks, and it really is. You see a lot of people talk about authenticity in the online space, in the offline space. Just be yourself, okay? There's so many people telling you to be
Oh,
yourself, but for many people, they don't know how to be themselves because there's so many masks in the way. And I think masks are very related to burnout. You spoke about how when you went into corporate, when you walked in your suit and your heels and into the boardroom, you were showing up as a very different person from what you were at home. And that can bring exhaustion for many people, keeping up that face, that keeping the mask in place can lead to burnout. It could lead to
yeah.
exhaustion because you're trying to be so many different people in different roles and not let them slip. And by the time people get home at night or when they unpack their laptop or they come home from their
Yeah.
business, they're exhausted because they're trying to keep all these masks on. So I think that is a
Yeah.
very important reflection for people listening. The authenticity, although people will say to you, be authentic, it's about finding and unbecoming and unconditioning from all the conditions and the masks that you've been taught to wear.
100%. And I've experienced severe burnout twice in my corporate career. And I mean twice, like sat in a psychiatric doctor's office, like having to go every week, like really severe burnout the first time. And the first time was at the point where I went, because when you're a high achiever, when you're ambitious, when you want to do well, you give everything 100% right. But because I was so misaligned in what I was doing, I was operating in a completely different world that I didn't want to be there. I had to give 120% every day just to meet the 100%, right? So I was constantly overgiven, overgiven, overgiven to achieve and get what I wanted, completely burning myself out. And I just think what what happened in that first instance of it happening is I went through about, crikey, 4 years of completely exploration, unlearning what those deep rooted beliefs were about work, about who I was, about what was acceptable, not acceptable, what you showed up as. And there was a lot of generational stuff and a lot of stuff that it's all these beliefs. But I went through a huge learning around what I didn't want to believe or see anymore and almost proving myself wrong. And then it took me, crikey, how long have I been left corporate now? I reckon it probably then took me, I probably left corporate at the point of that. I'd gone off and trained to be a coach on the end of that. I hired coaches while I was still in corporate, life coaches, career coaches. I started to explore this world of what I wanted to do, what felt really good. Because when you wear a suit, high heels, you have your laptop bag, you are your role, you are your job title. You are only as good as your last promotion. You're only as good as your team that you're running. Like these are external validations to who you are. You are Louise, the da 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 da, right? I'm Kirsty, da 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 da, right? I just didn't want to be that anymore. But for people who are close to you to go through that transition, it's like I can totally see how people get divorced going through that because, like, I literally transformed who I was as a person. And obviously, I was married way before that. So, my poor husband's been through this massive transformation, and we kind of had to refigure out who we were together. Like, I had to figure out who I was in a professional capacity. Like, what did that mean? So, the whole, like, just be yourself, like, it isn't that simple. It genuinely is like peeling layers of an onion, and it takes courage and vulnerability. But sometimes until we hit rock bottom, we don't do anything about it. And it was the time that I'd hit burnout the second time, I literally handed my notice in the same day. Like, not the same day, like it built and built and built. And I knew it because I'd gone through it. I'd done all this self-awareness, all this work on myself. I was a coach at that point. I completely get it. I've got it. I knew what was happening. And I knew I needed out. Like I knew I needed out. And it was at that point, like just one day, I was like, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm not going down that path again. And I literally handed my notice in without any kind of preparation. I literally said to Paul, like he nearly died, but here we are. We survived. And that was it.
And I guess, as you're saying, it's about the identity piece, isn't it? Because too many people
Mm.
can get caught up in the identity of who they think they are, who they think they need to be, who they think they should
Hmm.
be. And
Hmm.
I always like to think of when we're sculpting something, we're chipping away the layers and we're transforming identity
Mm.
into something and unbecoming and
Yeah.
all the layers and conditions that the values
Hmm.
that you've picked up from someone else and all of those things that have made
Yeah.
you who you are today, but also the things that you may have also attached onto you that are someone else's.
Yeah. And do you know what? That's really interesting because what I see in the online world, right, is people who were potentially like me, seeking something. So I went through 4 years of seeking. I was doing courses, I was reading books, like I just didn't know what I was looking for, right? And what I see happening is people finding these big names online. Come and do my blueprint. Come and do my cooker course. Come and work in my, like, whatever it is, right? Like, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. I'll give you the resources to do it, and you can just be as successful as me. Absolute bullshit. Because all you're doing is you are creating a different version of unhappiness. You are wearing somebody else's mask. And then you've invested all this money, and before you know it, all you've done is created a business that is just like your work, not aligned to your values, not built on who you are. You are just chasing, and you think you found a quick fix and a quick answer because, sorry to break it to people, it's really hard work. It's really, really hard work figuring out who you are, what gives you energy, and it takes time. And from someone that's incredibly ambitious and driven, it was so frustrating. Like, and it was almost like the masks came off a small layer at a time. And I did what I could with where I was. And then I would grow, and then you would realize something else. And that's why my business evolved pretty quickly. But then the ethical coaching company came along pretty quickly. I think I started the ethical coaching company. I think I registered corporate. And then I think we launched it the year after. But the whole concept of the business came really quick. I just didn't know how to sculpt it. I didn't know what it would look like. And I do move quite quickly, but that's like I've recognized something, I've become more aware, I've adapted, I've grown, I realize this doesn't feel good. And it all comes from in here, like inside me. What does this feel good? And I genuinely make decisions based on my intuition, on my energy, what it feels like. now I have been kind of shiny object syndrome, come and do this program, come and do this course, come and work with this coach, strategist, mentor, whatever you want to call them. But very, very quickly realized that my alignment and happiness and business did not fit with that. As soon as someone starts to show me this is what you have to be doing, I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel good. If it does, great, go for it. But I've learned very quickly and you'll it'll be interesting to hear your comments on it. I've invested, and I know you have, thousands and thousands, and I mean tens of thousands of pounds in other people's courses, programs, coaching, you name it. And this is all through this whole seeking and removing the mask that you go through this like you test it out. And you almost think, oh, that's a quick win. That's a quick path to me being happy. Oh, if I could just have that. And unfortunately, you realize really, really, really quickly that you're going to be disappointed because actually the standard, the quality, the promise, the hype, the marketing doesn't actually live up to the delivery of what that product is. And that's why I knew through this experience and through my background in kind of compliance and governance, I wanted to be impactful. I didn't want to be a great marketer. I know you have to be in the online world, like you have to do marketing, but I wanted to be a shit hot coach. I wanted to be so impactful that my clients shouted and screamed about that was all that I focused on.
And that comes down to depth, that comes down to mastery, and that
Mm-hmm.
it isn't there's no shiny fix.
Mm.
Mostly when people are looking externally, it's because there is a part missing. There's something that they're either not taking radical responsibility for, or
Mm-hmm.
they're unwilling to go to the depths of what is really driving them. Because I've seen so many entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you have yourself seen people that are building dreams that are then in a dream that's not even theirs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They built a
Yeah.
business 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
They don't know how to get out of this business. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to pivot. They're in a really
Yeah.
financial big position. They don't want the responsibility anymore. They're not
Yeah.
lit up by it anymore.
Yeah.
There's so many different layers that come with that, and I think that comes from trying to build what society thinks that, or what you think society needs, or what social media looks good for.
Yes. Yeah. And I genuinely woke up when I had that first burnout. And I realized I was walking in the path of someone else's success. And
Mhm.
I never, and that was like quite scary because if you looked in, totally stereotypical, if you looked in external into my life, you would think I had the most amazing life. I was traveling the world, I was running a team, I had a lovely car, got a new car every 3 years, I lived in a beautiful village, I had a gorgeous husband, I had like literally, we were doing like 3, 4, 5-star holidays a year, like we had such a beautiful life. And I literally like burnt it to the ground. I was like, I'm not happy. Like, and everyone's going, why is she not happy? Is she weird? But like, I was living in someone else's version of what success could be. I was getting up every morning, almost hating having to get my clothes on to go to work because I hated the people that I didn't hate the people I work with. I hated the values of the organizations that I was part of. I was part of teams that weren't energizing me, weren't motivating me. And I was just like, it was 120% effort every single day. And that's not sustainable.
And that is misalignment in its finest core.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people out there experience anxiety. They experience depression, mental health issues, and on closer
Mhm.
inspection, there's a lot going on in their life that they're no longer aligned to anymore. And it is about
Yeah.
having courage, being brave, being able to actually look
Hmm.
at what's not working, because on paper, the house, the car, the
Mm.
holidays, the
Yeah.
this, the that. I mean, anyone would think, oh, that looks fantastic.
Hmm.
But is it aligned?
Mm.
Is it
Yeah.
the real thing? Is that what really brings
Yeah.
happiness? And I think there's so many, unfortunately, people out there that are chasing someone else's dream, and are
Hmm.
and as self-leadership is about coming home to that and asking, what do I want to
Yeah.
dream? What do I want?
Yeah. Absolutely. And creating a business around that isn't easy in the world we live in because it's so noisy. And it down a path that is promising the world, but actually it's not aligned to you. And like, oh, look at this person that's going off on the private jet, or oh, look at that person on holiday again. Oh, look at that person. Like you're almost constantly going, what am I doing wrong in my business? Like, and I'm telling you now, most of the time that is just noise. That isn't real life. I know people who have been projecting onto social media, they are making X, Y, and Z. Behind the scenes, they are doing nothing. Like genuinely, and you know this, right? We know. And it's really, and I'm not shaming or calling anyone out, but they are obviously in, I would say, some kind of trauma response, some kind of seeking almost panic, almost like survival, almost kind of clinging on to desperation of success. And these people are then acting out in ways that maybe they wouldn't if it was in a face-to-face business, or maybe if it was like a local hairdresser wouldn't behave in that way because it's really obvious what's going on. But in so with social media and with online business, we can hide a lot of what that looks like and we can project something that isn't actually accurate. And I would say kind of like 70% of people that I see projecting something online, I know behind the scenes or that I've had any kind of interaction with, I'm a little bit like, oh. So the people that are truly ethical and truly integral to who they are, and whether I talk to you like this, whether I just sit around a table with you, whether I read your posts online, like I know who you are, they are the people that I just want to surround myself with. And I choose to, as soon as I feel like there's any kind of disconnect with who they project them to be and who they are, I run a mile. I don't want to be part of it. I just, that whole thing of like, I value peace, happiness, my own values, joy, like that's what I value. And if the people that are around don't give me that, I'm done. I'm out. And that's okay.
And these things, to many, might either feel impossible, that they can feel joy or love, or they can feel peace, and might seem like simplistic things, but these are some of the largest things that we can have in our lives. To be able to wake up
Mm-hmm.
and not feel the tightness in your stomach, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to, spend time with your family without checking into your email boxes or
Yeah.
thinking about what you're going to post next, all of those types of things. And this comes down to building a business and a life
Mm.
that is aligned for who you are and what you want to bring to the world. If there was one thing or one message that you could share with a business owner at this moment in this current climate, Kirsty, what would it be? What would be that one message, one bit of insight or wisdom that you could give them, that could take away today?
There's so much going on in the world. There's so much, but I think there's a lot around for me clarity over direction of where you want to go and what's driving that clarity. Like a big piece of work that I work on with organizations of any size, any part of their growth journey. What kind of life do you want to be? What kind of business do you want to be? What do you want to create? What's the legacy like? And I know that stuff might seem really kind of like pie in the sky, long, far off. But genuinely, I give everyone listening to this permission to build a business they love, to build a business that actually gives them energy. And yes, business is hard. It's not going to be all rainbows and, dancing all the time or whatever. But actually, when you work on 100% on a business that's aligned to who you are and your values and gives you energy, you don't run into burnout. Like, you're operating from a place of real, true authenticity. So I would like just reconnect with what your vision is, who you are, what do you want to create in your business? What is the long-term vision? Like, what is the legacy? What impact in the world do you want to have? Because I'm a true believer that kind of purpose over profit. I think if you have a real purpose, the world other than meeting the bottom line budget, I think you're going to be more fulfilled. I think you're going to have a much happier life. And if we could make everyone that works for us that bit happier, if we could give them something to kind of go home with a bit of a spring in the step, that's going to impact their personal life and their family. And if we could just have that ripple effect to make the work and world, a kinder, happier place, like I'm all for it. But I would just say reconnect with who you are, what you want to achieve, and what that vision is. And if your actions day to day do not align with that, change what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I've absolutely loved this episode. We've covered so many different layers, so many different things. There's actually so many different things that we could even podcast about and have conversations on.
I know.
So, can you tell our listeners where we can find you and what platforms and things like that? So if anyone wants to reach out to Kirsty and is interested in the impact and the
Mhm.
things that you're doing in the world and in the coaching industry and in the business world, then they can reach out and see a little bit more about this.
Absolutely. Obviously, our website, theethicalcoachingcompany.com, but in. So you'll find me, you'll find the Ethical Coaching Company, you'll find our partner coaches on there. But yeah, come and connect, drop me a message. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Louise.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been amazing for a very, very first podcast episode. Thank you very much for everyone listening.